dollars. The miners set a production target of 89 million tonnes for this financial year. Here's those shares sitting right now, 461, down 0.6%, having earlier actually hit $4.78, so obviously quite an unwind. Let's get across to Chris Weston, who joins us from IG Markets in Melbourne. Yeah, Chris, they raced out of the starting blocks, those Fortescue shares, and now tracking down by 0.7%. So what was the reassessment that went on there?
Yeah, I think the devil's in the detail here, Brooke. Yeah, 478 up 3% on the open. We just really immediately got those headline numbers about the production numbers. Now, the production numbers, I've got to say, are very good. You know, there's no real reason for the stock to be down about 0.6% now based on the production numbers. They beat the estimates. The estimate was we were going to see about, the three analysts that I saw, the average was 16.3 million tonnes. It came out above that at the moment. So, of course, it feeds into Fortescue's record results there. You can look at the unit costs. They were down 12%, obviously helped by a lower Australian dollar, which came down to realise at 101. You know, they were $46 per tonne. I think they were certainly below the estimates of the market. Some people were looking for 47. I think Credit Suisse are probably the low ball there, looking for about 46, about 45, perhaps, just a little bit below where they were at the moment. So I think that's the idea. But then you start looking at this, the capex costs, and you know, we know they took a 200 million hit to the port and rail side of things. They discussed that earlier. They disclosed that to the market a while back. But you know, if you look at some of the other bits and pieces, the $500 million hit that they've taken to the Solomon project because of increased housing costs and bits and pieces. If you put that in with some of the other bits and pieces, you know, you've got a net 7% increase in those capex charges there, and I think that's probably what you're seeing there from the company. You've also got a situation where they realised $125 is what they sold it for. So again, very good margins for the company, but probably just below what the average they could have got through on the spot market of $144 million per tonne, $144 per tonne, should I say? And I think if you put those things into perspective, you've got a very high-risk project. I think the market's still looking at this with a kind of very complex view. You've got some people saying that, you know, if they get up to these 89 million tonnes next year, which is going to be what they're going to be looking to get on an annualised basis, if you put that into a run rate, they're looking again for this 155 million tonnes. Now, a lot of that is premised on, you know, will we see extra costs coming through? And obviously the market's starting to see signs of that coming through, and I think that's part of the reason we're starting to see selling coming through. So, yeah, I think if everything goes to plan, they get the $155 million, 155 million tonnes going forward, with costs as they are, then, you know, this stock's probably worth a bit more money than where it is trading at the moment. But, you know, people are quite concerned given the iron ore prices in the spot market now are trading at $130 per metric tonne, the lowest level they've been in quite some time. And, you know, we're starting to see this anecdotal signs of a slowdown in China, although Fortescue continue to say they're selling everything that they produce at the moment.
So, Chris, if costs were the concern in that Fortescue report, then what about as we look towards Rio Tinto? Is there any possibility of seeing something similar from Rio this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's every possibility, but I think people will probably be looking more at the actual production numbers. I actually don't think there's too much to look at in Rio. I mean, clearly what we're going to be seeing here is a ramp up in most of its divisions, with the exception of perhaps the Alma aluminium side of things, which may struggle a little bit. Escondida is going to make up a lot of the copper side of things. Grasberg's obviously been offline for quite some time. It's going to be helped out by the Pilbara side of things, which is running about 5% above its system capacity at the moment. So I think, you know, what we're going to see here is a very much improved result from a very weather-related first quarter. So you're going to see some really good numbers coming out of the iron ore side of things, something like 64 million tonnes, which is going to be up about 9% on the quarter. You know, that makes up 70% of Rio's numbers, so clearly that's going to be the bulk of what you're looking for at the moment. You've got copper, where they should make about 138,000 tonnes of copper, which should be up about 16% on the quarter. Yeah, so they're really the two divisions you want to look out for Rio. It's had a big underperformance against Fortescue this year. And, you know, I think you've got to look at I suppose, the ramp up that we're seeing now, and you know, the stock is trading close to that capacity at the moment.
Chris, we mentioned earlier with you the session tonight with Ben Bernanke speaking in the United States, plenty of earnings. What else is in focus?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Goldman's earnings. I think that's going to be probably one of the key ones tonight. I know Peter mentioned Johnson & Johnson and Coca-Cola. I think Goldman's is going to be a really interesting one because financials are really taking the spotlight this week with what we've seen from Citigroup, JP Morgan, and yeah, Goldman Sachs has had its negative publicity, but they're expected to earn about $1.18 on the EPS second quarter EPS side of things. The range is very, very significant, but I think if you're looking at history of earnings, they've actually beaten 3 of the last 5 quarterly earnings reports, so they've got about 60% probability of doing well on a historical basis. So I think that could shine some light into the market. Obviously, Bernanke's been widely discussed. I think the actual time of that conference comes out. I've been quoted a different couple of times, but I think it's about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, so he's going to start speaking. So that's when the volatility is really going to start ramping up. How you position for that is yet to be seen, but I think, you know, there is a premise for the dollar to strengthen as he really does, as sort of fails to mention any real kind of clear signs of QE3 at the moment. You've got Spain coming out with a bill auction. They've got 2 series of bill auctions tonight. Now, I don't expect them to be poorly contested. I think the real probably highlight will be later in the week when Spain comes out and there's a whole tranche of different maturity auctions. Now, they've got 90 billion in terms of issuance they need to get away this year. They've got about 35 billion left, so you know, yields pushing it back up to that 7% is going to be still a big struggle for this country, this sovereign. So that's going to be looked at probably very closely towards the back end of the week. I also thought what was really interesting is what's happening with the ESM and the fiscal compact vote coming out of Germany. Now, the signs are, you know, that's been pushed back. This is a big source of worry for euro traders, for currency traders as well. Now, they've pushed that back to the September the 12th, so we've got a quantitative date as to when Germany are going to ratify that. And I think the analysts that I've been reading over the last 24 hours have said the fact that they pushed this back to September the 12th suggests that there's actually a higher chance of pushing this through, which in theory, whilst it's a negative they pushed it back, but it shows that they're perhaps there's a high chance they're going to push this through. Germany can then ratify the ESM and the fiscal compact and show their share in that as well, which is a net a big positive situation. So I think we're going to see a holding pattern going into the afternoon and obviously into European trade. And then perhaps we'll cling on to every word of Bernanke's testimony to see for signs of whether they're ready to install some sort of round of QE3 in the near future.
Chris, great to have you on board again. Thank you. Have a great day.
Cheers, bro.
Thanks very much.